We are back with part 2 of this week's reading of the Messianic Jewish Family Bible Tree of Life version. And this week we are reading chapters 13 to 24 of the book of Numbers. There's a lot going on here. And we are going into chapter 15, Fragrant Aromas to Adonai. Again, Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Bani Israel and say to them, When you enter the land that I am giving you, where you will make your homes, and you are presenting a fire offering to Adonai, a burnt offering or sacrifice to mark fulfilling a vow, a free will offering, or during Moedim, and Moedim means appointed times, to present a pleasing aroma to Adonai from the herd or the flock, or from the flock. The one bringing the offering is to present a grain offering of a tenth of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a fourth of a hin of oil. Now, with each lamb for the burnt offering or sacrifice, you are to prepare a fourth of a hin of wine as a drink offering. With a ram, you are to prepare 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a third of a hin of oil and a third of a hin of wine as a drink offering. You are to offer it as a pleasing aroma to Adonai. Whenever you are to prepare a young bull for a burnt offering, a special vow offering, or a fellowship offering to Adonai, bring with the young bull a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a half of a hin of oil. You are to offer you are to also offer as the drink offering half a hin of wine as a fire offering, a pleasing aroma to Adonai. This is to be done for each bull or ram, for each young goat or lamb. Do this for each one, for as many as you prepare. Everyone native born is to do these things. Like so, when bringing a fire offering as a pleasant aroma to Adonai, whenever an outsider resides with you or whoever is among you for your generations to come, and he is to present a fire offering as a fragrant aroma to Adonai as you do, he must do exactly the same as you are doing. The community will have the same role for you as well as for the resident outsider. It will be a lasting statute throughout your generations. As for you, so for the outsider will it be for Adonai. The same Torah and the same regulations will apply to both you and the outsider residing among you. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Bani Israel, saying to them, When you enter the land to which I am taking you, and you eat some of the food of the land, you are to offer a portion to Adonai. You are to offer a cake from the first of your ground up meal as an offering from the threshing floor, so you are to lift it up. Throughout your generations to come, you are to give this offering from the first of your ground up meal. So the second part of this chapter is unintentional versus defiant sin. If you intentionally fail not keeping any of the mitzvot, that means commandments, that Adonai related to Moses, that is, anything that Adonai commanded you through Moses' hand from the day Adonai commanded and onward throughout your generations, and it is done unintentionally out of sight of the community, then the entire community is to offer one young bull from the herd for a burnt offering as a pleasing aroma to Adonai, along with its appropriate grain offering and drink offering, and one male goat as a sin offering. So the Kohen will make atonement for the entire community of Bnei Israel, and they will be forgiven, for it was unintentional, and they brought a fire offering and their sin offering to Adonai for their error. So the whole community of Bnei Israel, along with the outsider residing among them, will be forgiven, for all the people were involved in unintentional wrongdoing. If but one person should sin unintentionally, he is to bring a year-old female goat for a sin offering. The Kohen is to make atonement before Adonai for that person who erred by sinning without intent, and he is to be forgiven when atonement has been made for him. Whether a native born of Benaiah Israel or an outsider living among them, one Torah applies to you for the one sinning unintentionally. But the person who sins defiantly whether native or outsider, reviles Adonai, and that person is to be cut off from his people because he has despised the word of Adonai and has broken his commandment. That person will certainly be cut off. His guilt will remain on him. While Benaiah Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering wood on the Shabbat. Those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moses, Aaron, and the entire assembly. They kept him under arrest, not being clear what was to be done to him. Adonai said to Moses, "The man has to die. The whole assembly is to stone him with stones outside the camp." So the whole assembly took him outside the camp. They stoned him with stones. He died just as Adonai commanded Moses. Tzit, Tzitzit for holiness. It's Tzitzit. I'm probably saying that wrong. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Bnei Israel, saying to them that they are to make for themselves tzitzit on the corners of the garments." These are the fringes. Yeah, I just cannot pronounce that too well. These are the fringes that you find on the garments, like, the prayer shawls and things like that. Those are the things that are, you know, the blue cords. Um, and they are to make for themselves on the corners of the garments throughout their generations. And they are to put a blue cord on each zit. It will be your own fringe. I'm going to call it a fringe. So whenever you look at them, you will remember all the mitzvot of Adonai and to do them and not go spying out after your own hearts and your own eyes prostituting yourself. This way you will remember and obey my mitzvot, and you will remember and obey all my mitzvot, and you will be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God. I brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. And again, like I said, the TZITZIT is the fringes. And that's what it's actually in Hebrew. It is known as the fringes, the on the ends of the garments, or some people call them tassels. Um, they can call them tassels. They look like they're braided. So anyway, that is the end of chapter 15. We're moving along. So before we go to chapter 16, I'm going to quickly recap this. In chapter 15, the offerings that were required of Israel and also the offerings of intentional sin were described here, free will offerings. And in the second part of this, and in the third part of the chapter, there was a man stoned for actually breaking the Sabbath. The Sabbath, of course, was to be kept holy. And back in those days, I mean, they were stoned for breaking commandments and such. And in the last part of chapter 15, we just talked about the fringes. And these are remembrances that are explained. And the children of Israel were to make fringes on the borders of their garments and a ribband of blue to look upon, to remember the commandments, the mitzvot of Adonai, and to do them, and to seek not after one's own eyes, but to remember and do all of God's commandments, his mitzvot, and be holy unto Adonai. Um, and he said, I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. So that's how chapter 15 ended. So we're going to move on to chapter 16. And this is going to get a little exciting here. This is Parashat Korach, and it's the rebellion of Korah that we're going to be talking about. And we're going to find out what happens when Korah and his gang of people rebel, and how the Lord dealt with that. Now Korah, son of Izhar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, and sons of Reuben, Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, rose up against Moses and took 250 men from Benaiah Israel, men of renown who had been appointed to the council. there was a lot of jealousy that went on. As you saw, there was jealousy even between Aaron and Miriam, who are actually Moses' siblings. So now we've got relatives of Moses rising up and bringing 250 people against him. So these were people that were appointed to the council even. They assembled against Moses and Aaron, and they said to him, "You've gone too," they said to both of them, "You've gone too far. All the community is holy, all of them, and Adonai is with them. Then why do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of Adonai?" When Moses heard this, he fell on his face. Then he said to Korah and all of his following, saying, "In the morning Adonai will reveal who is his and who is holy. The one whom he will let come near to him will be the one he chooses to come near to him. Do this, Korah and your whole following. Take for yourselves censers, put fire and incense into them, into the presence of Adonai. Tomorrow, the man that Adonai chooses will be the Holy One. You, you, your sons, bleh, you sons of Levi are the ones who have gone too far. Moses also said to Korah, "Listen now, sons of Levi, or as some pronounce Levi. Isn't it enough that the God of Israel has set you apart from the community of Israel to bring you near to him, to do the work of the tabernacle of Adonai, and to stand before the community to minister to them? So he brought you close, along with all of your fellow sons of Levi. But you are seeking the priesthood too. Therefore, you and all of your following are banding together against Adonai. Who then is Aaron that you are grumbling against him?" Then Moses sent word to call Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, but they said, "We will not come. Isn't it enough that you brought us from a land flowing with milk and honey only to kill us in the wilderness, and now you would lord it over us? What's more, you haven't brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Would you now gouge out the eyes of those men? We won't come." Then Moses became very angry and said to Adonai, "Do not accept their offering. I haven't taken from them a single donkey, nor have I wronged one of them." So Moses said to Korah, "You and your whole following are to appear before Adonai, you, they, and Aaron, tomorrow. Each man will take his censer, and you are to put incense into them. 250 censers total. You are to present it to Adonai before you and Aaron, each presenting his censer." So each man took his censer, put fire and incense into it, and stood with Moses and Aaron at the entrance of the tent of meeting. When Korah and all of his following had assembled in opposition to them at the entrance to the tent of meeting, then the glory of Adonai appeared to the entire assembly. Then Adonai spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Separate yourselves from among this assembly, so that I may consume them at once." But they fell on their faces and cried out, "O God, God of the spirits of all flesh, if one man sins, will you be angry with the entire community?" Then Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the assembly, saying, move away from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." Moses got up and went to Dathan and Abiram. The elders of Israel followed after him. He warned the assembly, saying, "Move away from the tents of these wicked men. Don't touch anything that is theirs, or you will be swept away because of all of their sins." So they moved away from near the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Dathan and Abiram came outside and were standing at the entrance of their tents with their wives, their children, and their little ones. Moses said, "By this you will know that Adonai has sent me to do all these works, that they are not from my own heart. If every one of these men die a common death and experience what happens to all people, then Adonai has not sent me. But if Adonai brings about a new thing, and the earth opens her mouth and swallows them and everything that is theirs, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you will know that these men have despised Adonai." As soon as he finished saying all these things, the ground split under them. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them, along with all of their households, all of Korah's people, and all their possessions. They went down alive into Sheol, they and everything that was theirs. The earth closed over them, and they were gone from among the community. They went directly to hell. Talk about raptured the wrong way. All Israel around them fled at their outcry, for they shouted, "Perhaps the earth will swallow us." Fire also came out from Adonai and consumed the 250 men offering the incense. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron the Kohen, to take the censers from the burning, because they are holy, and scatter the coals at a distance. As for the censers of these men who sinned at the cost of their lives, let them be taken and hammered into sheets as a covering for the altar. For they were presented before Adonai, so they are holy. They are to be a sign to Bnei Israel." So Eleazar the Kohen collected the bronze censers brought by the ones who were burned and hammered them into an overlay for the altar, just as Adonai had spoken to him by Moses' hand, so that it would be as a reminder to Bnei Israel that no one who was not a descendant of Aaron should burn incense before Adonai, and so no one would become like Korah and his following. The next day, the entire community of Bnei Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You killed Adonai's people." But when they gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron and turned toward the tent of meeting, behold, a cloud covered it, and the glory appeared. Moses and Aaron went in front of the tent of the meeting. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Get away from among this assembly, so that I may immediately consume them." So they fell on their faces. Then Moses said to Aaron, "Take the censer, put it into fire from the altar, and put in incense. Get going and hurry to the assembly and make atonement for them, because wrath has come out from Adonai, and the plague has started." Aaron did just as Moses had said and ran into the middle of the assembly. Behold, the plague had already started among the people, but he offered the incense and made atonement for them. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague stopped. However, there were 14,700 dead from the plague, besides those who died because of Korah. Then Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent of meeting when the plague had halted. So that is the end of chapter 16. Pretty wild, huh? I mean, Korah, there was so much drama and jealousy. Korah rebelled, and him and his cohorts get swallowed up. 250 men get consumed. There's a plague goes on. A bunch of people die, that are turning against Moses and Aaron. Lots happened in that chapter. So we're going to move on to chapter 17, and I'm going to come back with part 3 for that.